Here are some things you should know if you're being called for a second interview for your marriage-based residency. Now, usually, if you're being called for a second interview, it's for one or two reasons. One, the officer simply forgot to go over something during the interview and he wants to clarify some things with you. Or second, especially if it's a marriage-based interview, it's usually to try to clarify some discrepancies that the officer may have noted. Now remember, when you're applying for residency through marriage, it has to be based on a bona fide marriage, that there's no fraud involved, right? That the relationship was not formed for the mere purpose of obtaining one's residency. So usually in the second interview, the officer will ask more detailed questions about your relationship, maybe even so much what you see in the movies. They'll ask you what color socks you wear. That rarely happens, but if you're being called for a second interview, you should be extremely prepared for those detailed questions. And the last piece of advice I have for you is to think back to your first interview. Was there something in the first interview that you remember was said and the officer was confused about, or it seemed like there were some inconsistencies between what you and your spouse said? Try to pinpoint those issues and come together so you're able to have one response for the officer during the second interview, and furthermore, so you can explain to them why there was that discrepancy.